All right, in this video we're going to talk about independent samples t-tests. So what I've got is I've got my data set up into an independent variable with two levels, categorical, and my dependent variable, which is a single measure of an interval or ratio level variable. And let's at least on the first part of this look on the back side of the variable view to make sure we set it up correctly. All right, so what we're looking here is just the difference between men and women in height. And it can be whatever you want, but that's what this example is. And we're looking, our research question is, are men taller than women? Now that's a one-tailed t-test, so that's a one-tailed alternative hypothesis, so make sure we keep that in mind for later. Now we're testing gender and height, and for gender, it's important over here that we set this up as a nominal scale variable, and height we're setting up as a scale variable. That's going to be interval or ratio. Now, under gender, under the values box, I set it up as 1 equals female and 2 equals male. Okay, set it up however you want. Just make sure you remember your numbers as well for later. So we'll go back to the data view, and what you'll see is I can turn off the value labels, and I've just entered 1s and 2s. And since I've set up the value labels on the other side on the variable view, then I've got female and male showing up. It just helps me kind of keep it up, or keep up with it. Our height here, 68, 61, all this stuff is what we recorded when we measured our variables, measured our data. And what we'll do to run the test is we go over to Analyze, and then do Compare Means, and Independent Samples t-test. Brings up our dialog box. In our dialog box, what we need to do is determine which of these is our grouping variable and which one's our test variable. Now, our grouping variable is what makes our groups, and that's going to be our male and female groups. That's your independent variable. So we put that into our grouping variable, and our test variable is what we're testing about those groups, which is their height. So put that into height, or put that in test variable. Now, the interesting thing here, again, we pointed out before, is that your gender, your grouping variable has two little question marks here because you have to define what groups you're using. This is important because sometimes you might have a variable with more than 2 and you're just picking out 2 to compare. So we go to define groups and we set up what group 1 and group 2 are. Now, simply enough in ours, we just said they're 1 and 2, and it's important you type the numbers in here. So 1 and 2 that correspond with female and male, and we say continue. Now, once we've done that, we go to OK, we hit OK, and it will run. And this is what the output looks like once we've run it. Now, it gives us the N for each group, for female, for male, the mean and the standard deviation, along with the standard error of the mean for each one. And then it gives us our Levene's test, our t-score, our degrees of freedom, our significance that is two-tailed. Now remember what we said, we're running a one-tailed test, so we'll have to make that adjustment in a second, along with the mean difference, standard error of the difference, and our 95% confidence level. All we need to look at is this box up here, these 3 boxes, and then we have to look at these 2 boxes to tell us which row of these 3 boxes to read. Okay, so great. All right, so we won't worry about this for now. What we'll do is read our test to determine what we're going to report. Okay, now first thing we have to do is read the Levene's test for equality of variances, and all we have to look at right here is the significance. Okay, if this significance is above 0.05, we stay reading the top row. If it is below 0.05, we go down to the bottom row. Like I was trying to tell you in classes, if you just imagine a line right here, imagine a line between these 2 rows that the line is 0.05. If this number is below it, then you go down here. If it's above it, you go up here. You stay up there. So this is above 0.05, so we stay on the top row. Okay? So we read our test, 2.11, degrees of freedom is 38, and our significance two-tailed is 0.04. Now, what we said is that our test is a one-tailed test. This significance value is for a two-tailed test. That's our p-value. A two-tailed test 0.042. What we have to do is make the conversion. Since it is a one-tailed test, we're looking if men are taller than women. That's a directional test. Then we just divide that in half. It's 0.042. Well, that divided in half is 0.021. Okay, so keep that in mind. Our significance is now 0.021. 0.021 is our p-value. Now, since our p-value is 0.021 and our alpha is assumed to be 0.05, and p is less than alpha, that means it's significant. So we'll go about reporting this as a significant result. All right, to do that, you just say what your two groups are, give the means and standard deviations, and give what the result is, what the result of your test is. So for example, all we're really having to say is that men were significantly taller than women. That's really all we have to say, but now we have to go in and put our statistics in. Okay, now we do it after we say what the group is and what we're measuring. So we said men and taller, so that's the implication that it's men's height. Okay, so because it'd be weird to say men's height was significantly more than women's height. So men were significantly taller than women will certainly work here. So to do that, we go in, we put the mean, italicized capital M, space equals space 66.40. I'm getting that from right up here. Okay. Comma, SD, move the mouse for you, SD equals 4.11, and I'm getting that from right there. Goes right along with the min. Okay. And then close that, than women. Same thing, report their mean and standard deviation. Oh, italicize. 63.85. SD equals 3.53. And again, I got those 63.85 from right here and 3.53 from right here. Make sure you round appropriately. Now we have to report the statistic. You do a comma, a space. Now you do an italicized lowercase t, parentheses, report the degrees of freedom, which we get from right here. 38, close your parentheses. Space equals space, report your t-score, negative 2.11, comma, and then report your p-value. Now remember, we said we divided that in half, 0.021, so we italicize a lowercase p, space equals 0.02. Just 2 decimal places is all you need. And that's it. Men were significantly taller, mean standard deviation, then women, mean standard deviation, t of 38 equals negative 2.11, p equals 0.02. The end. And you've reported your independent samples t test.